started ring theory in the last video, and we saw some basic ideas about ring theory. We saw things about subrings and all of that. So in this video, our focus turns to ideals and quotient rings. Ideals and quotient rings. So this lesson develops one of the central structural ideas in ring theory that's talking about ideals and how they allow us to form quotient rings. We then connect these ideas to ring homomorphisms and the ring isomorphism theorems, which explain why ideals are the right object to study. So, if you remember, we also talked about group homomorphisms and group isomorphism theorems. About three of those theorems, I think they kind of look are connected in this case. So let's talk the topics covered. We talk about ideals, principal ideals, quotient rings, ring homomorphisms, ring isomorphism theorems, and all of that. So the motivation is about ideals, right? Why do we have to study ideals? So in group theory, normal subgroups allow us to form quotient groups, right? But in ring theory, ideals play the same role. So what normal subgroups did for us in group theory is what ideals are doing for us in this case. So I remember when we talked about normal subgroups, right? It brought up something about left coset being equal to right coset, and that led to something about conjugacy and all of that. So subrings are not sufficient for forming quotient rings. So ideals are exactly the subsets that behave well under multiplication by ring elements. So let's see what ideals are. So first of all, ideals. So let R be a ring. So of course, we already know that a ring is a set with two binary operations, unlike a group that is a set with one binary operation. So a ring has a set with two binary operations, and the binary operations are addition and multiplication. And under the additive structure, the additive structure obeys follows five axioms of closure, associativity, identity element, inverse element, and commutativity. Whereas for the multiplicative structure, that's the axioms for multiplication, you have basically two laws of distributivity. The fact that multiplication distributes over addition, and of course, you also have associativity in the case of multiplication. So both additive and multiplicative structures have associativity in common, right? So uh so let R be a ring. So we say a subset I, which is a subset I of R, is called an ideal. So I is an ideal if number one, the subset I with under addition is a subgroup of R under addition. Okay, so I under addition is a subgroup of the original R under addition. Of course, we already know how what a ring under addition. We already know how it already behaves, right? Then for all R belonging to R and for all X belonging to the ideal, then we can say that Rx is always an element of I, or XR is always an element of I. So we saw this same idea of left coset, right coset coming here. But whereas instead of saying left coset and right coset, we talk about left ideal and right ideal. So if only Rx belongs to I is required, then we say I is left ideal. If only XR belonging to I is required, we say I is a right ideal. So in a commutative ring, left, right, and two-sided ideals coincide. Basically, so when we have a commutative ring, left ideal is equal to right ideal. Just like for a normal subgroup, left coset is equal to right coset. So let's talk about examples of ideals now. So examples of ideals. So we have the zero ideal. So the zero ideal is we have the set of the identity under zero. So the zero ideal, you have a set that contains a singleton set of zero being a subset of R, and then you also have the whole ring, so which has R itself, which is equal to R basically. So in Z, now Z is the set of all integers. In Z, the set NZ is equal to NK. The collection of all NK such that K belongs to Z is an ideal, right? So if you have things like 2Z, 3Z, 4Z, 5Z, and so on, these are all ideals, in the ring, for uh, the set of all integers. So in R also, if you have R equals Rx, which is the set of all polynomials divisible by x squared. So the set of all polynomials divisible by x squared, we can also see that as an ideal, right? Then finally, the set of even integers is an ideal of 2 of z. The set of all even integers is an ideal of z. So we have a non-example. So the set of positive integers is not an ideal of z, right? So if you have the set of all of positive integers, so it is not an ideal. Like, yeah, you just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you like real numbers, sorry, natural numbers, right? They are not ideal. And the reason is that they are not closed under subtraction. For instance, if you pick any two of those numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In fact, if you pick like just if you pick 1 and 2, 1 minus 2 minus 1 is 1, which is there, right? But 1 minus 2 is minus 1, and it's not there. So it's not part of the set of positive integers. So it is not closed under subtraction, and it is also not closed under multiplication by negative integers, right? So it's not closed when you multiply by negative integers. Then let's talk about principal ideals now. So, don't forget, ideals behave like subgroups under ideals in rings behave like subgroups in group theory. So, talking about principal ideals now, an ideal I of a ring R is called principal if it is generated by a single element. Does that sound familiar? You remember the idea of cyclic groups, which are generated just by a single element. So, and those single, and it can come in the form of the multiple. So, for in under group theory, right? A cyclic group was that group that was formed by the multiples of a particular one element, or by the powers of of a particular of one element. So what principals are to rings is what cyclic groups are to groups. So an ideal I of a ring R is called principal if it is generated by a single element. So for A belonging to R now, so you now have, so see, the notation here is different. For group, it's left angle, A right angle. Okay, that's the cyclic group. But here, this is how we put it, just like in normal brackets. So, which is this? I think this is what we call parenthesis. So, A like this is equal to the collection of all RA such that R belongs to A. So, in this case, now you see that this principal is the all the multiples. So, pick any element from R and multiply by that A. So, that A now is like the generator, is the single element generating the whole of the principal. So this is the smallest ideal containing A, like that. So example ideals in Z. So let n be equal to 6. Then we can say that, uh, you know, the principal 6 is equal to 6Z, right? And then that is just going to be the 6 multiplied by any integer, So 6 multiplied by 0 is 0. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Then to the negative side, 6 times minus 1 is minus 6. 6 times minus 2 is minus 12. And then it goes to infinity on both sides, like that. So the claim is that every ideal of Z is of the form nZ for some n greater than or equal to 0. I think we saw something close to that before now. Hence, we can say Z is a principal ideal domain, PID. We are going to see more about PIDs, I think, in the next video. So, yeah, I think so. So hence Z is a principal ideal domain, which is a PID. Okay, so we go for 21.3, where we now talk about ideals generated by multiple elements. So the principal ideal is generated by one element, but we also have ideals generated by multiple elements. Interestingly, they don't seem to have a special name. So given A and B belonging to R, the ideal generated by A and B is A, the ideal A comma B, which is the collection of all RA plus SB such that R and S belong to R. So example in Z will be, if the ideal for 6 and 9 is 3, right? So the ideal of 6 and 9 is equal to the ideal of 3, because since the greatest common divisor of 6 and 9 is 3. So so at the end of the day, an ID generated by two elements boils down to the ID generated by the greatest common divisor of these two elements, like that. So in this case, now this will just end up being like multiples of 3. All R is, based on whatever R is. Then we have quotient rings. So for quotient rings now, um, let R be a ring and I an ideal of R. Okay, so we can define R over I. So I also remember we had a quotient in groups. So R divided by its ring is like the collection of all R from big R plus the ideal such that R belongs to R. So for addition, we have R plus I plus S plus I, and that is, so if you tidy it up together, you have R plus S plus I. Then for multiplication, you have R plus I into S plus I. At the end of the day, you can just tidy it up as R S plus I. So these operations are well defined because I is an ideal, right? So we have an example here. Imagine that you have Z divide 6z, z over 6z. So the elements, you have z over 6z. That's like you have 0 plus 6z, 1 plus 6z, 5 plus 6z. So, 6z is a thing. So you just keep adding 0, 1, and so on and so forth. But it ends at 5 plus 6z, right? That's how far it goes. So the addition example, so if we add 4 plus 6z plus 5 plus 6z, that's just going to be 4 plus 5 plus 6z. That's 9 plus 6z. And at the end of the day, that's just simply because of the GCD of 9 and 6, you have 3 plus 6z like that. Then here you have so here you have how do we have 3 here? Yeah. Okay. So you have 3 plus 6z. So for multiplication, you have based on what we already have here. So you just add these two. So for this now, you have 2 plus 6z times 3 plus 6z. You just have 3 times 6 plus 6z. And then see, I think it's about working a modulo 6 because of the 6z. So 9, so 9 is the same thing as 9 modulo 6, which is 3. Then 6 is the same thing as 6 modulo 6, which is 0. So you now have 0 plus 6z. So that's that about quotient rings. Then we can then talk about ring homomorphisms. Ring homomorphisms. So, of course, based on what we learned in group theory, we discovered that a homomorphism preserves the structure of groups. But in this case, we're talking about homomorphism in the context of rings. So a function phi, which maps R to S, is a ring homomorphism if, first of all, the phi of A plus B is the same thing as phi of A plus phi of B. Then the phi of A times B is the same thing as phi of A times phi of B. And the phi of 1 sub R is equal to 1 sub S if rings have identity. So if there's identity, so the phi of the ring, I mean the phi of the identity of R is equal to the identity of S, basically. So the kernel of phi then can now be kel phi, which is R, every R belonging to the ring, such that phi of R is equal to 0, such that we have phi of R is equal to the identity element. So then, yeah, so the key fact here for any ring homomorphism phi which maps R to S, the kernel of phi is an ideal of R. I think so. You can see that all these things bear resemblance with the things you have seen under group theory also. So, because the kernel of phi, I think, was also like a normal subgroup of G, like on just like because ideal and groups ideal and normal subgroups, right, are the same, right? They are analogous, so to speak. So this explains why ideals naturally arise in ring theory. So that's about ring homomorphisms. So imagine this now. This example, define phi, a homomorphism, which maps the set of integers to the set of integers modulo 6 by phi of n, which is n mod 6 as usual. So the kernel will just be 6z, and then the image will be z6, the whole of z6 altogether like that. Because I mean, Z and Z6 have Z6 in common. That's where the image comes from. So let's talk about the homomorphism, isomorphism theorems. So first of all, we have the first isomorphism theorem. In group theory, the first isomorphism theorem, hope yeah, I don't want to mix that up. I think that was talking about existence and all of that, but let me just follow this. So let phi map R to S be a ring homomorphism. Then we say that R divide the kernel of phi is isomorphic to the image of phi, meaning that R divided by the kernel of phi has the same algebraic structure with the image of phi. This shows that quotient rings describe all homomorphic images of a ring. So an example is phi, the homomorphism phi, which maps Z to Z6. So we have that Z divided by Z6 is isomorphic to 6 to Z6. I mean, Z divides 6Z rather is isomorphic to Z6. So the quotient ring captures exactly the structure of the image. Then that takes us to the second isomorphism theorem. So let I be an ideal of R and S, a subring of R. Then we say S plus I divide I is isomorphic to S divide S intersection I. Exactly the kind of thing we saw for second isomorphism theorem under group theory. So this explains how subrings interact with quotient constructions. Then we also have third isomorphism theorem. If I is a subset of J are ideals of R, then we say that R divide I divide J divide I is isomorphic to RJ. This is more like what you can technically call chain rule, right? You have R of R divide I times J divide I. So that so that bit times I divide J. So I cancels out, so you just have R over J, and you have the chain. So this allows quotienting in stages. So R divide I, J divide I, then now have R divided by J divided I. So that is going to be isomorphic to R divide J. So the big picture overall is the fact that ideals generalize normal subgroups, then principal ideals simplify structure, then quotient rings encode modular arithmetic. Ring homomorphisms produce ideals via kernels, and isomorphism theorems unify all constructions, just like what we had with group theory. Ideals are the backbone of modern algebraic structure theory. So you can try out these 10 questions as usual. Show that 4z is an ideal of z. Prove that every ideal of z is principal. Find all ideals of z12. Compute z over 8z explicitly and all that. So we've had examples of this. So you want to try your hands on them to see how well you understand the idea. So let me know how helpful this is for you. And if there's something else you'd like me to try out, feel very free to let me know. If you have subscribed already, I thank you very much. If you have not subscribed, don't wait. Go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can always get alerted each time a new video is released. Having done that, you can also become a member of this channel, and that comes from special privileges you can find out by clicking on join. Ultimately, don't forget to comment, like, and share so that more people can have access to the great content I have going on here. Till I come your way again, keep doing maths right. Bye.